Okay, so I'm going to start going in a little bit here. So we're going to be drawing lightly. As I always mention in my classes, you want to draw lightly, and then you can always get darker. I will be drawing darker so that you'll be able to see it. This is an 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper. This is computer paper. You're welcome to do it smaller, but we'll be doing it the full size of 8.5 by 11. Okay, let me just adjust my paper here or my camera and get started. So we are going to start with the shapes first. So as you can see, we want to start off and just kind of pencil in the ears. And I'm going to just move a little bit closer here so you can see a little more of the detail. There we go. Okay, so we're going to start off at the top of our page. And we're going to start with the ears. We just want to get a placement for the ears. So we're going to go to the top of our page, top left here, go in a little bit, and we're going to start with those ears. So again, you just want to kind of pencil in the shape of the ears. And for right now, oh, Adrian's coming on. Let me just let her in. So for right now, we're going to do sort of a quick sketch of those ears. Hi, Adrian. And I see that Linda is coming on as well. So we start off with the ears and also the forehead a bit, or the top of the head. Welcome, Linda and Adrian. We are just starting our full page of the drawing of our rabbit here. Right now we're just creating the shape of the ears. This is an 8.5 by 11-inch piece of paper, just computer paper here. So we're kind of making sort of a silhouette. So we're making the shape of the ears. We're going to make the shape of the face. And also this is being recorded, just so you know, in case you feel like you've already missed too much or you can't stay. It is being recorded. So what we're doing is we're creating the shape of the entire face here. So we're just creating these shapes in order to get the correct length of the rabbit's face. So it's kind of going to look a little like this. We may have to do some adjusting. So this is kind of the surrounding shape of his face. And then we have just the shape of him in the back here, like so. And so this is going to be kind of on the right here where his fur is. So right now it's going to kind of look like a cartoon. Let me move this a little bit so that you can see the left side here. There we go. So again, we're kind of just getting that shape in of everything. And basically the side of his face should be a little bit slanted. And then we'll fuss around with the exact shape of everything in between. Okay. So after we do that, oh, Audrey's coming on. So after we do that, we're going to come up here to create the area for his eye. So the eye area is right down from the left ear here. And hi, Audrey. We got started about maybe 3 minutes ago, 3 to 5 minutes ago.
Anita, I'm sorry, I just got in, so I'm just going to
That's
start
okay.
with you. Okay,
Oh, no
thanks.
problem. You're welcome. It's being recorded, so no worries. It's great to see you as always.
Nice Easter, Anita.
I did. Thank you. You?
I did, relaxing.
Good. That sounds good.
Looking forward to your class again.
Oh, thank you. So we're going in for the shape of the eye right now. And basically, it's sort of a football shape. And I kind of started doing underneath the eye, but I wasn't really paying attention as I was doing it. So I have to erase that part. So I'm just going to do the eye for right now, the shape of it. And it should be a little bit more round over here. And then it kind of comes a little to a point like right here. And we're then going to start, we're going to leave it like that. It's going to look a little scary, but I promise we'll get back to it. I want to deal with the center of the face, and then we can then go around and readjust around the head as we need, as we see fit. So coming off of the eye, you can actually create sort of the circle that happens right here for the eyeball. And I'm going to go a little bit closer here. So we have the circle and the part here of the eye. And then we want to create another big, large circle for the pupil. And we have a little bit of a highlight happening. We have a few highlights happening. But if you want for now, you can lightly shade in that round circular part. And I'm just going to kind of show that up close. So just like that, just real quickly, just to give it a little bit of some color there or some shading. Okay, now once we do that, we also want to go underneath the eye. So we're just going to go back to underneath the eye, and we're just going to create the curved line for now, sort of like bags, under his eyes like this. And again, everything is very light because we're going to go back and make it a little more like the shape. So as I mentioned, we're now going to go to the center where his nose is. And so we'll be probably expanding this area a bit, but I wanted to give him sort of an ending to his face for now, for the shape. So we're going to come over here and we're going to come to this side, and we're going to make this part of his eye stick out just a little more and maybe a little pointier, like so. And I'm actually taking a look at mine, and it needs to be a little lower. So how do you know it needs to be a little lower? So if we come up here where the ear is, you've got the lump of his head. And I'm going to make this darker so you can see. And it slopes down. And mine wasn't sloping down quite enough. And so this is his eye. And then we've got his nose starting to happen down here. And then what we're going to do is go inward in kind of an almost like an oval, but not quite because it's a little pointy here at the end. This is his nose. And I'm just going to erase the other line so that you don't get confused there by that. And when you've got kind of the pointy part, you're then going to go back upward like so. And again, we may have to adjust some of these lines, but we're going to skip some space. And now we're going to be drawing the area for his, oh, Liz is coming on. The area for the mouth part. So that's going to come right from this portion of the nose. And for now, like I mentioned, these lines are light. So we just want to make sort of a curved line out. Welcome, Liz. We are just sketching our rabbit here. This is being recorded, so no worries if you're worried about catching up. It's being recorded. So we're going to kind of curve outward and then downward. Oh, no worries, Liz. It's great to have you. And so what we're doing is we're kind of making the bottom portion of the one part of underneath the nose here, kind of like the mouth. So what I'm doing here is I'm kind of creating that sort of rounded area. And then I have to kind of erase what I've already drawn because it doesn't work. And then the second part of the face. So we've got this part, and this is the middle part underneath his nose. And then this part goes outward and to a little bit of a point, but it's curved. So I'm just going to kind of show that up close here. It's starting to look like Peter Rabbit. Okay, so underneath that, we need almost like a smile, right? Like a little bit of a curve. And it does get a little pointy here, but we can worry about that later. This part of the mouth, we had a curve, but we're just going to make it slightly straight or bent, I should say. Now we're still creating the shape of him. So we are coming over here. We're still staying under this part, and we're going to create the shape underneath his face here. And so we're going to come here and kind of make this a little more angular. But we go down a little more. And I'm just fixing mine a little bit because I want it to curve a little more, going upward. And then coming back here, you want to make a curve going towards the eye. So it's going to go like this and then curve a little bit towards the eye. This is the shape of right around here of the fur. And then you're going to make a separate shape like this for the rest of the top of his head here. And then start to erase just a little bit of the bottom of the ear because we're going to curve that a little better. So this is the shape that I'm talking about. So you see how it's in two parts. The head is in two parts. I know it really looks creepy right now. It looks like, yeah. So you're going to make two of those parts going up the side. We're going to continue upward now. And we're going to start drawing off of this part. And what we do is we're going to curve inward as we go up towards the ear. So curve inward. And then you're going to start to kind of come outward. Go up. There's a bump. Come down again, curving. And then the ears go inward. They're a little thinner at the bottom because they're curling in. But it's going to look something like that. And excuse all my other lines here. Give everybody some time just to catch up. And then we go on to the middle here of the head, top of the head. So you should have kind of a bump happening up here, and then the next ear starts. And it's going to curve slightly at the bottom, curve inward, and then outward, and kind of swoop upwards. It's going to round off at the top a little bit. And go outward here. And then coming here at the bottom, it's going to curve a little bit inward. Oops. Maybe a little bit like this. And then back towards the left side. And I know I have to fix these lines here, the ones I drew before. And then you're going to connect that. Okay. So we're going to work on the sections that we will be doing we're going to make sections where it's going to give us direction on what we're going to do so that when we start shading, we're not just shading all over the place. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be adding a thin layer, or a light layer, I should say, of shading. Before we do that, as I mentioned, we're going to kind of give some direction to help us do that. And we're going to start up at the head for right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to start above the eye towards the head. And we're just going to create a curved line like this going towards the eyeball. And once we do that, we're then going to create another curved line coming downward like so. This is actually his orbital cavity for his eyeball. And you can see it when you shade it. I mean, that's not what everyone's going to know, but in order to create that roundness of the eye sticking out, that's what that is. So you've kind of got this roundness happening right here. Now we're also going to go on this part right here, and we're just going to erase this section just like that, so that now that line is split a little bit. And then we're going to come up here and we're just going to create sort of like a curve like this, almost like it's the top of the eyelid, because it kind of is. And then once you do that, we're then going to come on the bottom here and we're going to create and connect the line for the underneath eye bag like this. And I'm just going to show this up close just so you can see. So it's going to look something like that. So this is the line I was talking about where, it connects to the underneath the eye bag that we already kind of drew. Okay, so we're going to start adding some more spots now. We're also going to be coming, again, we're sticking right underneath the eye. We're just going to create a curved line right here. This is going to be a line that we're going to shade later on. So these lines that we're creating are going to be lines that we're going to, or sections that we're going to be shading. And then underneath that line, we're going to go inward towards this area and coming right off of the eye bag. And we're going to create a shape that looks like this. So remember, all of this should be really light on yours, not so much on mine, because I want you to be able to see it, but just a shape like that. And then we're going to come back over here and we're just going to create a curved line like this, just going a little bit upward like this. And again, what we're creating are just some of the areas that we're going to be shading. And it's not going to be exact, but it's going to guide us so that we know how far to shade. Okay, so now we're going to still stay here on the left side here of the ear. And we're going to come to the bottom here and we're going to create a line that goes like this and then this way, because this is the start of the outside of the ear and kind of the inside of the ear. So we're going to be making a shape that looks like this. Then we're going to get into the ear, and coming off of that shape, we're going to start to the left of it and just make a curved line going up to the point and curving. And we're going to finally jump over to the other ear here. And we're going to come here to the left of the ear. And we're going to start up at the top. And we're just going to make a curved line going towards the bottom of the ear. And then going downward to this part that kind of curves inward. Okay, and our last part that we're going to sort of draw is going to be the section of the body here. So I'm going to just adjust my camera so that you can see a little more. And so now we're going to come down to the body. So we already have sort of this section lightly penciled in, but we're going to add another part. This kind of go around like that. And then right next to it, we're going to add sort of a curved area, a two lined area like this. And then we're finally going to start with the whiskers coming down, the really long whiskers. So we're going to come over to the left side here at the bottom. And we're going to make our first whisker. And it's going to be two lines like so. Actually, that curves a little more like this. Let me make that a little darker so you can see. And then we've got another whisker coming. It's going to look like this. We're continuing with the whiskers coming out here from the nose. And we've got another one curving. We have a really thin one in between those two. Now these are two lines, but they're very close to one another.
Anita, can you zoom in real quick?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, Anita.
Yes.
Do the last two whiskers, are they on like the outside of the bunny that we can see, or are they like on the inside?
These are on the outside. Yeah.
Okay.
So these ones here. Yeah. So I just realized I was going over a little too close to the right. We actually have one more right here. So this is your last one on the right side. Does that make sense? Okay. So good to see you, Siobhan. And then we've got our hair happening down here with our rabbit, but I'm just kind of putting it like this. And we'll take care of the other ones that are sprouting on the other side later on. So now we're going to start with our light shading. So I want you to take a look first at this area. Make sure that you like the face. I'm looking at mine. I just want to make sure. I feel like this has to be a little bit straighter on mine. So I'm going to move his nose in just a little bit. If it's looking funny to you, like the face, this may have to be moved in a little bit straighter. Like it might be curving a little too much. And I'm gonna fix a little here. This is where we fix. You know, take a look, make sure you like what you're seeing before we start our shading. There we go. Okay. So we're going to start shading very lightly. And we're going to start in the ear area first. And so the parts that I asked you to kind of section off, sometimes we're going to do some shading there. And so in this section of the ear, we're shading in most of that area, but not the middle yet. And again, this is light. So you see, the reason we're just shading it is because then what we're going to do is take our tortillon and we're going to blend it. So right now what we're doing is we're just creating some shading so that we can blend. So it doesn't have to be perfectly neat. We just want to get a light shading on it. We do a few of these sort of passes, as I like to say, basically shading. And then the part of the body on the left, for now, you can do a very light shading to the left of the first whisker. So very lightly. And then in between the whiskers. And as you can see, I'm just going from left to right with my shading, just so I can get it kind of shaded in. And I'm not worrying too much right now about the right side of the rabbit underneath his face. So again, this is just a light shading in order for us to start using our tortillon or cotton swab or whatever you're using in order to just get some shading on here or some kind of light coloring on here. Also, when you get to the second ear, you're going to shade kind of mostly all over it, except on the right side at the top. We're going to leave that the white of the paper for now. And in the middle, right here. So I think it's almost time for me to turn the other light on. It's starting to get a little darker here in my room. So now the rabbit's face is going to be a little different because we've got sections of the white paper popping through, and we want to use that for the light areas of our bunny or rabbit. So we're going to start on the left side here, right where the eye is, or around it. And we're going to start with our first slightly darker area. And that's going to be the hair that's coming out right above it. And we're just going to do that a little bit darker. So not real dark. So we have that little patch here of hair happening, and we've shaded that up and down a little bit. And then we're going to go into the eye, and we're going to make it a little bit darker right here in the corner of the eye. So just a little bit outside of the eyeball. And then we're going to start going inside of the eyeball too and making that darker than we had it. But we want to leave 2 spots for highlights. And those spots are kind of like round circles a little bit. So I'm just going to show this up close. So we're looking at something like that. Do you see those 2 kind of roundish sort of areas I've left? They're not completely round, but they're circular. And again, this isn't the finished part of the eye. We just really want to get some spots that are a little darker. And we're going to outline the outside of the round eyeball. And then we're going to shade underneath this curved area, the eye bag. And so we're going to start on the bottom left, and we're going to shade like this. So we make the line a little bit thicker underneath, especially where the roundish part is. And then remember, we put this sort of funny line in. We're now going to shade from left to right from that line. And we're going to shade like this, and we're going lightly. And you're going to shade to about right here. And as you can see, I just kind of did a jagged, I shaded jagged, and that's what you want. And then once you do that, remember this line that we created, this curved line. You're going to shade on top of that from left to right in a downward motion. And that line's going to get smaller as you near the end of it. So the shading part. So see, it's a little bit larger up here. And then as you shade down towards the bottom, it gets a little bit, the line gets a little bit thinner. I'm just going to show that up close. And again, I took my pencil and went left to right. And then remember this sort of strange, again, sort of this curved area here. You're going to come down and you're going to shade very lightly into that left to right. And it's okay if your shading goes outside of the parts that you drew. So again, it's going to look like that. And then we're going to now, I have to say it, we're going to hop on over to the middle of the nose. Get it? Hop on over. Sorry. Okay. So now we're going to come over here. We're going to start on the right side of the nose. What we're going to do, I'm going to show the other one up close, just so you can see. So you see this part where there's the white of the paper. So we're going to shade starting at the right, but we're going to kind of leave this area right here, the white of the paper for now. So the way we do that, we start over here. And if you want, you can draw a very light line at the bottom like this, so that will guide you as you shade. So you will shade inside that area very lightly. So I'm just shading the nose very lightly. And I'm going to go up the nose, not really up the nose, but right where the eye is. And we're going to shade like this along the edge of it, but also in this area that we blocked off. So your shading should be similar to that. Okay. Now we're continuing right here where the nose area is. And right next to it, we're going to create another darkened area for now. It's not black. It's just kind of like a little bit darker. And the hair, this is the hair that we're shading. It's going to kind of look a little like this. So what I did was I shaded up and down. This is the area here, just in that section for now. So we create all these sections in order to guide us so that we don't get lost in our shading. So when you're drawing something that's complicated in the sense of this, where the shading is complicated, it's good to give yourself, it's like a map. I think of it as a map. I give myself, like, light lines that kind of indicate the shape of where I'm shading. Okay. Now we're going to go on the left side of the nose here, and we're just going to give it a little bit of shading very lightly like this toward the edge here of this side of the face, but then we're going to go in just a little bit of shading right over here. So what we're doing is we're keeping it mostly the white of the paper. And then when we go to the other part of the mouth area, we're going to shade just very lightly on the bottom part. And then just a little bit along the nose or along the edge of the nose. So again, I'm going to show that. This is the shading for this side of the face, or the lip, I guess, the mouth area. Okay, so I'm looking at my mouth, the bottom mouth area. I just want to refix the mouth a little bit on mine. Okay, now we're going to use our tortillon or whatever blending tool you're using. So we have enough information for right now for the first layer. So now we're going to start in the left ear, and we're going to shade all the dark or the darker areas with our shading tool. And then what we'll do is we'll do a little bit of blending on the white parts of the paper. But for now, we're shading the darker areas that we shaded. So we're blending those parts. And you can also get into the body. So the second half of our rabbit here, what you want to do is shade the left part of the body. And you're probably thinking, yeah, but there's some light spots. There are. We're going to go back in with our eraser, and we're going to be erasing in order to make it look like fur. So again, staying just for right now on the left side of the body, we're shading the left side of the part of the ear area and going downward. And you're probably going to see I have the other piece of paper underneath this. So as I'm shading, it's kind of creating a line from the paper. You shouldn't have that line for the paper. That's just on mine. And then you're going to go underneath. So staying underneath the body, or I should say underneath like the facial part where the whiskers are, you're going to shade in between the long whiskers that we drew. Now, when you get to the right side underneath, you can take your tortillon and start to kind of shade and make kind of like hair sticking out with it as you're like curve your tortillon as you're shading. Like, see what I'm doing? It's almost like I'm drawing with the tortillon, but I'm making hairs for now, like light shading, making it look like hairs almost. I'm just going to show that up close. I'm talking about this area right here. I just take the tortillon and whatever shading is there, I'm just swiping the tortillon into those areas for now. And we're going to continue with our shading into the right ear. And the other thing you can do at this point, you can also shade the lines that you used to create the drawing. So for instance, the ears, what brand of tortillons do you have? So I get these from Amazon actually, and I get them in a big pack. This one actually came with a colored pencil set I had called Castle Arts. But I get them in like, I just look on Amazon and there's a pack of them. And there's like thin ones. Let's see here. Let's see if I can show you. So here is another one that's thinner. And another one that's really thin. And if you look up tortillons on Amazon, like tortillon set, a bunch come up. You can also get them from Michael's, but I like to get them on Amazon because I use them a lot. You can also put blending sticks in Amazon. If you put like, I think I put blending sticks. So yeah. That was a good question. And so then you're also going to come on over after you lighten up or shade the right ear. You're going to now come into the face, and on the right side, you're going to shade the eye. You know, this is the part of the eye that you can't see. And then you shade into the nose. You're going to keep the bottom part of the nose, the white of the paper. And then you're going to start to shade on the white part of the nose as it gets towards the left side here. And then going towards the eye and the bottom part of the face. And then you're even going to go into a bit of the left side of the mouth here, the mouth area. You're going to fade some of what you put down there. You're just going to fade that a little bit. And then you're also then going to go now to the left side of the rabbit's head. So, you know, this dark area that we did along the edge. You're going to start here at the bottom, and you're going to start shading into that space and going outward, like you're thinking about the fur. So I'm going to go outward, going up the left side, smudging the area or the line that we drew for the ear, and all along we're going to blur all of that. So it's going to look kind of blurry. And I'm just going to show this up close. So it's going to look like this. And then we're going to also, after you do that, you're going to shade in the middle of the ear where the white areas are. So that then it's going to look like it's lightly blended. You're also going to go into the eye, or I should say around the eye. And remember underneath where we created that shading, you're going to smudge that. Then you're going to lightly smudge underneath. You're going to go above the eye. You're going to smudge the line, that curved line above the eyeball. And then you're also going to shade around so that now everything is a little bit more like light gray. You're then going to come underneath to the left of the eye. So right here where I'm kind of tapping, you're also going to shade this with the tortillon. So now it's sort of a light gray. And we're going to be going in and just doing some erasing a bit with our eraser. But now this is our first layer of our rabbit. And now we're going to start to get darker with our shading. So you're going to pick up your pencil again. You're going to put your tortillon down, picking up your pencil. And so this is the part, it's hard to not smudge. But try to just be careful. If not, you can always erase around it. But we're going to start first with the ears. So we're going to go at the top of the ear, and we're going to make this darker. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to just come in really close since we have the overall rabbit now, but so that you can now see my lines. So I'm going to show you the other ones. So what I mean is we're going to go to the tip here. We're going to make that darker. And the way we do that is you're kind of layering it in one spot, and then when you're starting to go down here, we're thinking about the fur. So you want it to stick out along the edges. You're going to be using different strokes with your pencil. If you take a look at the ear, so we've got strokes going this way, lighter ones underneath it, going in the same direction. And we'll go through this step by step, but I just want to kind of point out to you the different strokes. When we go on the right, we go in the opposite direction, like this, with our strokes. And when we go down here, we still go in that direction, and we still, we want to make it look like fur. So we go along the edge and we make it stick out a bit. All right, so we're going to start doing that. So going back to the ear now, I mentioned we go a little darker. So we're going to go along the left side here and make parts of it darker. And I'm going from left to right and remembering that since it's fur, I want to stick out of my lines a little bit as I'm going down. So we're going to go on the left side here. And we're just going to continue down towards the eye, like so. So say I went along here and then went towards the eye with this line. Now we're going to stay on the left side here. And we're going to go along the edge of the fur and make it darker and sticking out and change a little bit direction here. So we're going along the edge to about right here. Then we're going to go on top of this fur, and I'm going to do just a little bit of erasing like this. Like I lift up my pencil so that parts of the white paper are showing, but then I'm going to go back and I'm going to make individual hairs. And we're going around the edge right now of the bunny. And when we get to this part, we're going to go darker. This is right underneath his face. And then what we're going to start to do is we're going to go in chunks of layering. So what that means is we skip some spots and we shade in small chunks in order for it to look like fur. And you're going to do that as you're going along this first piece of hair or whisker. I couldn't think of the right word. I'm like, hair, it's a whisker. We're going to work our way around the edge of him here first. So going back up into where the hairs are in this area, you're going to shade along next to the hairs like this. So the space in between the hairs is actually called negative space. So you're going to be shading in between the negative space. And as you notice, I'm not shading everything in a solid shade. It looks dark, it looks light, and I'm doing that purposely to make it look like hair or fur. So again, doing it in between the next part. We're working our way around here. And it's okay if yours doesn't look exactly like mine. You just want it to be that these are the curved hairs that are happening. When you get to the part that we didn't really do yet, kind of did, you're going to take your pencil and you're going to make curved, short hairs that are curving towards the outside of the body. So you're going to be lifting your pencil up, going on top of the light area that we shaded, but now you're kind of making these little individual curved hairs. And then some get a little darker right underneath his mouth there. We're also going to shade his mouth, the little part in between the two sides of his mouth here. So we're going to shade that. And it's a little darker in the spot that separates it in between. He does have some hairs that are kind of sticking out at the edge of that section. So I'm just going to show that up close. So see, he's got like little hairs sticking out right there. We're working our way into the bunny here. So I'm going to lift up my camera as we're going into his face. We're going to come back near his nose and just darken up the area that separates the bottom mouth part to his nose area. And then we're going to start adding individual hairs again on the outside surrounding his mouth. And then you're going to take that into the white area of his fur and very lightly making individual hairs and going up again towards his eye or the outside of it. So where that dark part that we added. And then you can also go along the left side of where we already added hair, but we want to add some little darker parts. And so we want to scribble a little more and not make it look exactly like a line. And we're also going on his body at the same time with these individual hairs. So you can hear me lifting up my pencil and hitting this area with some darker hair. And then shading a little darker. And as we're going into the body here, remember there's that section right next to it that is the white of the paper. You're actually going to go in there with your eraser. Let me move this because it's creating a line underneath my paper. So look, I'm taking my eraser and I'm erasing into it, into the white areas, and then I go back and right next to it, I'm just going to add a little more dark fur, but it's like medium fur, you know, like light, very light shading. Then we finally want to go into his face. And is everyone okay with about 6 more minutes of this? I know we'll be kind of going. Is that okay, Karen?
Yeah, if people need to leave, just remember, we'll be sending you out the tutorial, and so that you can fast forward to where you left or just review it again. So yeah, I think we're good. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, Karen. Perfect. Yeah, if anyone needs to leave, you'll receive the recording. But we're going into the face now. And so what we're doing is going up towards the eye, and we're going to make the eye a little darker on the outside. So right around the top edge, you're going to kind of outline that a little bit. And going into the pupil part, making it a little darker around where you created the circular part of it. So I'm just going to show that up close. So see, sort of inside, but staying on the edge of the circular part. And then we're going to outline just a little bit of the eyeball, and we're going to kind of create at the top a little bit of what's going to look like an eyelash on the left side, like that. And then right underneath the eye, around the eye bag area, we're going to shade again very lightly. We're going to shade a little bit into the eyeball, very lightly gray. We're going to come above the eyeball and shade lightly with our pencil right above, just like a light gray, just a little bit in that space. And then as we get to the right of it, we're going to make that hair again. It's a little darker, but we're going to make it stand up. This is where we're going to get into certain sections of parts that we're creating. They're a little darker going along the edge of the nose here, on the side of the nose. So we're now taking our pencil and going around spots and making them a little darker for the fur. And we're even going to go on the nose. And if it looks a little dark to you, you can just go back in with your pencil. Or if you messed up and you want, something to curve, you can just go in with your pencil. You're going to go towards the right eye and shade along there. And then we're going to go on the head here, at the top of the head, and on the left of the bump, kind of make some light shading. And then on the right side of the bump, a little lower than the bump, think of like you're almost making grass, like you're making individual lines of grass for these spots, but then sometimes clumps. And then we're going to finally go to the ears, and we're just going to add on the right ear, we're going to add some dark shading on top of the kind of dark shading we did on the left, but you're going to be doing individual lines going from left or top to downward. You're going to do the same at the top of the ear, but it gets a little lighter as you go in the middle of the ear. And then darker against the edge on the left of the ear and the right. So there's a combination of shading going on with the ear. And then we're finally going to go to the left ear. And that curve that happens where the ear is joining the head, you can make that a little bit darker. And remember, this shading is, kind of on the side from left to right, right to left. And we want the shading to stick out along the edge so that it looks like fur. So as you see what I'm doing to the top of the ear here, I'm making parts of it stick out so that that looks like fur. And then even as I'm going inside, you can hear me picking up my pencil and putting it back down on the paper to create individual shaded areas. And then sometimes, you can concentrate in one area by just shading. So it's a combination of things. But in the middle of the ear, it gets a little darker on the left side here. And as you can see, it's a combination of scratchy shading. It's not even, it's not very even. But if you want to make it even, you can. If you want your bunny to be a little more even. And then our finishing parts, we want to add the round dots at the bottom of the facial area where the hair will be sticking out, right? So we're going to add those dots on the bottom here. And then we're going to start to make the hairs coming out of those dots for his whiskers. And we do the same on the right side, but they're shorter. And he's got some coming out of his right eye here. And above the left eye, we have about 3. Let me see, did I do 4? 1, 2, 3. I did 3. And as you can see, it gets pretty messy around, you know, the rabbit. So you can then just take your eraser and clean it up. But I'm curious what everyone's looks like. And as you know, you'll get pretty messy yourself. But I'm going to stop the recording